What's going on, people? It's your broker, Michael G. Davis, broker, CEO, Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm. Excited to be here for another Create Your New Life real business meeting and coaching session. And yes. We got another one in the book. So excited to be here with you guys. Again, thank you for visiting. If you're getting this on YouTube, you're getting this, maybe somebody sent an email to you or something, I promise you, you need to send them a thank you card because they are hooking you up with some great content. We got a great show, a great meeting, let me say. We got a great meeting for today. So very excited. Got agents that are at any point. We see we have Margaret on board. What's up, Margaret? Margaret's connected again. All right. So Margaret knows at any point she can stop and engage, ask questions. These trainings are not meant for just talking. They are meant for engaging and all of that. So just glad to be here. So let's go ahead and jump off with, like we always do, just starting it with allowing you all to see where you can follow us on social media, where we are, where we hang out on social media. So yes, we have a YouTube channel, which is probably the most comprehensive place to catch us. Our Facebook business page, we're really working to bring that back up, especially with our Mastermind Through Tough Time that we started last week. I'm going to talk about that some more today because we're going to be doing it again today at 2:30. But that's really driving people to our Facebook business page. So we're starting to see the activity pick up on that. And then I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and then I have a personal Facebook page as well. So multiple times a week, we send out content on all of our platforms. We do a lot of research, do a lot of learning, a lot of educating. So we have a lot of content, massive amounts of content, great content that we send out to our social media audience and our social media fans. So to our beeps, our Brooks and Davis real estate peeps, we send that stuff out. All right. Now, as I go through our Create Your New Life business meeting and coaching, if you're out there looking at it and you're with a brokerage firm and you're not quite getting the results that you need, or you're considering getting your license, then you can go to this link. I highly encourage you to sit down and schedule a company introduction so you can learn more about the better options that we offer, right? Because I'm going to talk about some of the things that we offer, and you're going to get an idea of the type of information that goes out, the things that we study at Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm. And look, if you got goals and things you're wanting to achieve, you got dreams, and you need somebody to help formula for you that works for you to get you there, that's your solution. Click that link. It can do online, it can be in person, and we can just kind of expose to you more of what we have to offer. Now, one of the things that we're able to provide is an hour of continuing education credit to our agents that are a part of Brooks and Davis. So I know, Margaret, you have to renew your license this year, and I believe you are utilizing these Create Your New Lives to take care of your elective credit, right?
Correct.
So how has that been a convenience for you? Talk about that.
Well, for one thing, the information is valuable for one. So it's like a twofer. So the information is very valuable, and I could leave here and go use it. And I also get my hours, which can be cumbersome the longer you wait, and you have to really pack those hours in so you can meet your deadline. So I don't have to take time away from the office and doing those things that help make me successful going out to sit somewhere and take a class, whether it be online somewhere else or physically going to a location. And it's free, so I don't have to pay for the class. So yeah, so it's
can't be free. So how many hours do you have to how many elective hours do you have to take to renew your license?
18?
18 elective hours, and
yes.
Every 2 years you got to renew?
Yes, every 2 years I have to renew.
All right, see, so there you have it, man. I'm saying, like, you know, Margaret's not over here stressing herself about these elective credit hours, man. She's just logging on every week, getting this great content, getting this CE credit, and boom, she out the gate. So thank you for sharing that, Margaret. Appreciate it. All right, so now, what are we going to talk about today? So today's title is How to Spot the Liars During the Negotiation and Guarantee Execution. So, how to press, you may not have realized it, but when you're in a negotiation, people lie. And that's just what it is. So today, we're still coming from our book, Never Split the Difference, and we're going to be looking at Chapter 8. And in Chapter 8, he talks about the different tools and techniques that you can use to identify when somebody may not be being as honest with you as they should. So we're going to talk about that. And another thing we're going to talk about is, and the way Chris says it, the what don't mean nothing if it doesn't include the how. Just because somebody agrees with what you're going to do, if they don't execute it, then you still don't have, just I'd say with Brooks and Davis, just because a person say they want to join Brooks and Davis and they tell me that over the phone, yeah, I'm going to sign up, well, that don't mean nothing until I get the paperwork. So today we're going to talk about that, how to guarantee execution. In addition to that, we're going to talk about how to remain positive when a real estate professional, especially during these coronavirus times, this coronavirus climate, very important to remain positive. And then we're going to also talk about some special coaching sessions that we offer to our agents that just goes into building the right custom real estate business for them. And then we're going to recap our mastermind times that we did last week. So if you haven't seen it, go to our Facebook business page, and you'll be able to see last week's. Or we created a playlist YouTube page, so you can actually go there as well and see it. So so we got a as you can see, jam-packed meeting. Now, the quote for today came from Henry Ford, right? The father of the assembly line, one of the first true barons of industry. And you know, you're familiar with his car or his vehicle, the Ford truck, Ford car, Ford whatever, but it all started with that Ford Model T. He transcended generations. So the quote that he gave us today, it says, "Coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, working together is success." That's what old Henry Ford is telling us today. Coming together is the beginning. So as we are talking about with the negotiation, right, this dance of negotiation that we're talking about, well, us coming together and us talking, that's the beginning of it, right? Jim Camp says and start with no. You know, we've heard, especially as salespeople, always be closing, right? ABC. Jim Camp say, no, don't be closing. Don't close at all. Never, right? And I subscribe to what Jim says, is because in reality, closing isn't one of those things that you have control over. We can't control people, so we cannot control their decisions. All we can do is influence and persuade them. So that's all this is about. So with being the case, the coming together, the engagement conversation is just the beginning of the process, right? And then the next skill is being able to maintain that engagement, keeping them attached, right? You know, I had a conversation with a young lady yesterday that's considering joining our firm, and guess what? this was probably the fourth conversation that I had with her. And we're now to the point where she's going to sign up, right? But of that time, I think my first conversation with her had to be, I don't know, man. I did this research before I got home, but it had to be September, August of last year. August, September, October, I don't know, I forget. But my point is, for all those months, I had to keep her engaged, and that's progress. That's what Ford's talking about. And then now we're going to work together. That's a success. I got my goal of what I achieved. So coming together is the beginning. Staying together is progress. Working together is success. Thank you, Mr. Henry. We appreciate that. All right. The next thing that we're going to go into is our core ideology. So remember, our core ideology is made up of three components. It's made up of our core goal. It's made up of our core mission, what we're going to accomplish as a company, what we're here to do, and it's made up of our 5 core values. So the value that we're going to look at today is constant positive attitude. Constant positive attitude. I can't sing hard enough when it comes to how in these times, this current climate that we're in, especially in this current real estate space, how critical it is for you to keep your attitude the right way. You got to look at this situation that we're in and identify where the opportunities are. And my advice to you is this: you will not be able to identify the opportunities if you got stinking thinking. If your attitude is jacked, if you're caught up in the fear and you're caught up in the panic of what's going on right now, you are not going to be able to clearly see what next moves you need to be making to not only survive, but to position yourself to launch straight out the gate when this thing opens back up. So right now, this value that's in our core ideology at Brooks and Davis is paramount. That value of making sure you maintain positivity in your attitude, because that's going to give you the glasses that you need to see to the next phase in your business and in your career. Gotta grasp that value. Constant positive attitude is the value that we're holding on in these days, and which is going to springboard us to the next level in our business, right? So that's what we're rocking. That's what we're rocking today in these current times at Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm. All right, so now we're going into production, right? Let's see what kind of production we're doing. All right, at 2.5 million, you know, we're working towards getting to 5 million at any given time. That's the amount we want to carry in our pipeline at any given time. So right now we're at 2.5. We're halfway there, people. Let's go. We did have some movement in our top 3. So want to congratulate LaKendra Kaufman with the 5-star realty. Brought in a deal, catapulted us to the top as our #1 producing agent for the week. So congratulations, Kendra, as well as Sydney and BJ, as they maintain their positions on the list. So congratulations, LaKendra. And I say it all the time, all of you are a lot of times just one deal away. One deal away. Why? Because our pending board is all about what you have in escrow. So what that means is once you close on it, you can no longer count that. So we're not looking at who's the most who's done the most closing. We're looking at who's the most productive or producing. We're not looking at who's the most productive. because that's based on what you closed. We're looking at who's the most producing, right? Who's the one that always keeps stuff in the pipeline? Who's the one that always keeps stuff on this board? Who's the one that's always has their name in that top 3? So that's what we're talking about, top producing agents. Congratulations, LaKendra, on your product, and on your production, adding your production, and being number 1 on the list. Okay, let's go into our proprietary programming. Once a week, we have a segment as our business meeting where we highlight one of the proprietary programs our Brooks and Davis agents have access to, that we believe sets us apart from everybody else. As you can see, we have a multitude of programs that we have as are being showcased on our mural that we're highlighting. So the one that I want to showcase today is our secret sauce, right? Which really sets us above the rest, is our one-on-one coaching. And it's real coaching, you people. I'm telling you, man, it is not me just saying, oh yeah, join Brooks and Davis, we're going to coach you, we're going to train you. No, I promise you, I can show you where it is a true coaching program. And okay, so it's like, well, how can you prove it? How can you prove it's a coaching program? The reason is because people that are not Brooks and Davis agents pay for it, right? So the value is not the coaching, because everybody has access to the coaching. The value for Brooks and Davis agents is they get it at no cost. It's included. Yes, our coaching is included. All right. And look, so you could join Brian Buffini, right? You could join Tom Ferry or Mike Ferry or KW Maps. Like, there are other coaching programs that you could pay for. But ours is different because what I believe, and I participated in all of them, those coaching programs focus on the mechanics, right? And when I say the mechanics, I say how many drive-bys, how you're going to build business, how many phone calls, how many presentations, what's the script you're using, how do you handle the objections. Like, that's all mechanics. And the reality is that when you approach it from that standpoint, you're assuming that the person coming to be coached has already, they're coming with the right mind frame. They're coming with the right mindset, right? That's what this blue square represents in our Realtor Success Funnel. This is the representation of how we coach the mechanics. This is what I believe that coaching protocols, they spend most of their time around. It's the mechanical side of things, the different skill sets around doing a real estate transaction and building your real estate business. Where we differ is that we flip it. So we first spend our time dealing with the psychology, right? The things that are holding you back, that's between your ears, not the mechanics. Because in my experience, until I deal with the psychology, I answer these questions, which are 7, 8 questions that are showcased. Until an agent knows the answer to these, then there's no way that I can effectively layer the mechanics on top of it, right? So when I say it's true coaching, once a week, we get together, 30 minutes, we go through it, we start peeling back the layers, we come up with an executable plan, we layer the mechanics on top of it, and then we go after it every day with everything that we got, 157 miles an hour. Coach it. You're held accountable, you're supported, and the great thing about it is it's included at Brooks Real Estate Firm. You don't have to pay for it. People are paying for it, they see value in it. The way we know they see value in it, because they're paying for it. That's how you know. You let the market talk. Market saying it's valuable. Our Brooks and Davis agents access it at no cost. We held sessions online. We can do them in person, and people are seeing results. Period. They're seeing changing. They're seeing growth, and not just themselves, but in their business as well. So that's our coaching, and it's something that we're proud of. All right. So here's something else that I'm really, really proud of. It's our new social media sensation, our Mastermind Through Tough Times, Realtor Edition. So if you did not see it, if you did not participate last week, you missed a lot. I promise you, we had a great conversation. We looked at what a recession is. We talked about, what as realtors we really should be thinking about, focusing on. The market changes, it adjusts. What are some actionable things that we could be putting in place to attack, right? Go get off of the defense, get on the offense, right? Attack. When you look at a soldier, look at one of them old Roman soldiers, they had a shield, which was the defensive weapon, and they had a sword, which was the offensive weapon, which means they could always be on defense and offense at the same time. That's where you need to be now in this battle that you're in. You got to be able to engage offense and defense. So in our Mastermind Through Tough Times, we're giving offense, we're giving strategies, we're giving things that you can execute right now as a realtor. And we're taking questions, right? We had some great engagement from the comments, great engagement from the questions that people were asking that were checking us out. So it really turned into a discussion, which is what we are wanting this to be. So if you missed it last Tuesday, don't worry. Do it every Tuesday. You can, guess what today is? Tuesday, right? So go to our Facebook business, click the like button so you'll get notified on Tuesday at about 2:25. I'm gonna get on there. We'll have some music playing as we set up, just getting everybody ready to get in. It's a relaxed environment. I'd say about 2:25. Maybe before then, 2:25, we'll get on, get the dance party going for the discussion. And then 2:30, we're jumping right into it. And I am so excited to see what's going to come out. So this Tuesday, by the time you see this, it'll probably be past Tuesday because we post these on Wednesdays on our Facebook page. But this Tuesday, we were going to be looking, will buyers really buy virtual? Right? I mean, because that's what everybody's saying. Like, social distancing, sellers don't want people in their house. Will buyers be as emotional as a process of owning a home is? Will buyers really be comfortable enough buying a home sight unseen? That's what we're going to talk about today. Is it doable? Even though people are saying that. Is it doable? So, Facebook Live, type in Brooks and Davis Firm, like the business page. In addition to this, we also post content on that page a couple of times a week. And then on Tuesdays at 2:30. If you wanna attend the live studio, we have plenty of space. We broadcast from our beautiful coaching and training center on the south side of Houston, Texas. Make sure you RSVP at this link to reserve your seat for the live broadcast. All right, we got that out the way. I think we go into training now. Is that what we do? Yeah, we're going into some training. All right, so back to the book, Margaret. Back to the book. We have found we're going to be looking at chapter 8, guarantee execution, how liars and ensure follow through from everyone else. You know, brief recap, you know, the things that we've already addressed. So if you're just seeing this session for the first time, we do have 6 other episodes. And after we complete the series, we are going to create a playlist, so it'll be easily accessible, like we did with the book Shift. But there are 6 other episodes that I encourage you to go back to, where we go into detail about these other chapters that are in the book. But thus far, we've learned the new rules of negotiating and how they've changed from, I would say, common knowledge around negotiating, how they've adjusted. We've talked about different techniques like the mirroring technique and how to effectively do that, tactical empathy and labeling. You know, these are these different psychological strategies and techniques that you use within a negotiation to influence, which is the goal. We talked about the word yes and truly understanding, and I believe that was in chapter 5, understanding that some yeses mean yes, that's the commitment yes, and then some yeses really mean no. They're just saying that it's a counterfeit yes to get you out of their face. And then we also talked about the power of no, right, and what no can do to people. It can do to you, so you got to be aware of it. We talked about another psychological technique called summarizing and how to use that, how to get a that's right out of people. That's when you know you got agreement. We talked about compromising and how compromising can kill your leverage. Matter of fact, it can kill the deal in general. So we talked about that. Deadlines, how to use those as tools in a negotiation. The word fair, how it impacts things. How to utilize the 6 steps to bend reality to get people to engage and embrace and anchor their emotions, and you know, as we begin the engagement of a negotiation. And another great tool, psychological strategy, calibrated questions, and controlling yourself, because how can you influence somebody else and influence somebody else's emotions if you can't first control your own emotions? So then that's what we talked about last week, using the calibrated question and how effective that is in driving in a particular direction that you want to see. So, all right. So today we're going to go into looking for the layers, right? So now Chris starts it off by saying the job of a negotiator isn't just to get agreement. It's getting to one that can be implemented and making sure that happens, right? So sometimes when we go on meetings, this was even for me. Sometimes you go to a meeting, you go on a sales presentation, you have a phone conversation, and just to hear the person say, I'm going to join, was enough, right? And what I found is that that's enough, because a yes is nothing without a how. While an agreement is nice, right? While someone saying we agree, or I agree, or I want to join, while that is cool, a contract is better, right? A signed contract is better. But then, you know what's better than a signed contract, Margaret? A signed check is even better than a signed contract, right? Which is better than an agreement. So the yes is good, but you need the yes. Before you walk away from the table, you need the yes and you need the how, because that's what gives true implementation, right? You don't get your profits with agreement. They only come upon implementation. That's when you get paid. So, you're sitting with a buyer, or whether you're sitting with a seller, a seller, or if you're recruiting for the company, you're sitting with an agent. The agreement means nothing until you address the implementation. And before you leave, that needs to be addressed as well. Don't just leave with the yes, because what will end up happening is, what you'll see is that You can leave with the yes and you think you got it in the bag and you look up and it never materializes. So you got to deal with the implementation at the table as well. All right. So yes is nothing without how. So with enough of the right how questions, so now we're re-pulling in these calibrated questions, because the calibrated questions were our tool that we talked about last week. So he's focusing on a specific one, though, the how question. And he says with enough of the right how questions, you can read and shape the negotiating environment in a way that you'll eventually get to the answer you want to hear. So it's a way to, again, drive, define the conversation, and move it in a direction that you want it to go. But you first need to know where you want it to go. And then you use the how question to get it, right? It says you just have, pretty much the same thing I just said. You just have to have an idea where you want to go with the conversation when you're devising the questions. So the trick to how questions is that correctly used, they are gentle and graceful ways to say no. The how question is a great way to tell someone no without saying no, to guide them to a better solution. So if somebody jumps at you, right, and says, if a seller and the seller says, I'll list with you, but I'm going to list with you and I want you to at 3% instead of 6%. 3%. Well, you could go back and say, I'm not doing that. That's crazy, right? And I promise you, the deal is done. You might as well leave the house. You're not going to get it. Even if they were willing to pay you 6%, you killed the deal because your negotiating is bad. A way to tell them no without doing it that way is to say, how am I going to do that? How am I going to be able to sell your house and only get paid 3% commission? How am I going to give you the same amount of energy and effort that I've given my other clients that pay me 6%? How am I going to be able to do that with you when you only pay me 3%, right? So in essence, you're saying no, but that's a no. You're saying inviting the seller to give you some other solutions. Well, how am I going to do that? So now we're together going to work on a way to where I can get your house sold, and definitely 3%. Boom. So that's how the how questions work. All right. So now it says the first and most common no question you'll use is, how am I supposed to do that? So he says that's the most common word that you're going to use. All right. So now, besides saying no, the asking how is quite literally, it forces your counterpart to consider and explain how a deal will be implemented. Right? A deal is nothing without good implementation. It says poor implementation is the cancer that eats your profits. Listen, you are not going to make any money without having the implementation conversation with every client, customer, prospect that you have. Without the implementation conversation, you will not make any money. But yet, it is a mistake. It's a mistake that I made. It is a mistake that we make. Conversations, we're on these sales calls, we're at these sales presentations with buyers and with sellers. We've made the mistake, and we make the mistake of walking away without having the implementation contract, and we end up with hollow meetings. Because a hollow meeting is where it does not materialize eventually into business. And I know in our see a lot of that, right? So Chris says there are two key questions you can ask to push your counterpart to think they are defining success their way. One of them is, how will we know we're on track? Okay? So when somebody agrees, yeah, we're going to do this, one of the questions you can ask them is, well, how will we know that we're on track? Yeah, Mr. Buyer, you're willing to hire me. Boom. How will we know that we're on track moving towards a relationship? And a lot of times these questions are held prior to them signing the paperwork. But even with them signing the contract, you want to know. You want to make sure the buyer, you want to make sure that buyer doesn't get cold feet at the last minute and decide they don't want to buy and want to pull out of it. Something on the on the inspection report freaks them out, and they just say, forget it. We run into a snag with the appraisal, and they just get frustrated with the process. Like, you want to make sure of that. So, and you want to make sure of that in the beginning when you first start, because now you haven't invested any time. You got to be conscious of your time investment. Okay. All right. We want to welcome Tempest. What's going on, Tempest? Welcome to the Create Your New Life session. I just see you logged on. All right. So that's where you want to have that conversation, that implementation conversation. The next question, the other question he says is, how will we address if we find we're off track? So those are the two questions. Those are two questions to get the counterpart to think about implementation. How will we know we're on track, and how will we address things if we find that we're off track? How will we handle it? All right. The answer they give you, they're going to answer, then you summarize the answer. You want to get a that's right, that's true agreement. The that's right is what gives you agreement. Right? And then you'll know they've to implementation when they give you the that's right based on their response. So it's all about them. It's about living in your adversary's world, the same thing that we've been talking about. All right. Now, on the flip side, he says you'll know they bought. On the flip side, there are two telling signs that they have not bought in, that they have not agreed what you're talking about. One of them is, we talked about this before, when they say you're right. When you present something to them and they say you're right, it's often a good indicator that they have not vested in what is being discussed. They haven't bought into it when they say you're right. So what you want to do is, you got to make sure that you jump back into it with them, right? Ask some calibrated questions, get them to respond, put yourself in a position where you can get them to summarize and give you a that's right, right? So that's the first one where you know they haven't bought in yet. The second telling sign that you know they haven't bought in is when you push for implementation and they say, I'll try, right? So when you say, hey, you know, can you get this contract signed back to me tomorrow? If they say, I'll try, they haven't bought into it, right? So again, either one of these, when you hear you're right or I'll try, then you got to jump back into it. You got to dive back in with calibrated questions, right? And help them define the terms of successful implementation in their own voice to get true buy-in from them, all right? So then in this chapter 8, Chris begins talking about influencing those people that are behind the scenes. There are always people. So these days, especially in the kind of business that we're in, with buyers and sellers, there's a lot of time that are not in the meeting with you that are influencing things behind the scenes. And as a negotiator, you now have to add another skill to your tool belt, and that's the skill of being able to flesh out other players in the background, right? What Chris says is few business deal makers fly solo, but for the most part, there are almost always other players, people who can act as deal makers or deal killers. You got to become aware of that, especially in our business. Take it from experience. I've seen it happen. I've seen deals be destroyed. Transactions, client relationships be destroyed because there was an unknown faction in the back that was infecting my client or infecting the situation. And they killed the deal. And vice versa, sometimes deals got to the closing table because there was some saving grace, still didn't know about it, that was in the background reinforcing what you guys were doing. And that's what got the deal all the way to the closing, right? So there are these factors in the background, right? Oh, you got something, Margaret? Something to add?
No, I said the good Lord.
The good Lord, absolutely, was in the background, being a deal maker for us. So if you truly want to get yes and get your deal implemented, you got to discover how these individuals in the background are affecting things. And the best way to do that is, guess what? What do you think is what, Margaret? That's right.
Calibrated questions.
Calibrated questions. You're listening. See, Margaret's listening to the show. That's what I'm talking about. The best way to do it is through calibrated questions, right? So when implementation happens by committee, that committee is key. So you gotta identify and unearth the motivators that you haven't identified. So you can ask calibrated questions like, how does this affect the rest of your team? Say you're talking about buying a house, right? So how does this affect the rest of your family? You buying your house. Because guess what? You may not think it, but parents, dads, moms, siblings, kids, all of them can be in the background and kill a deal. You may think that mom and dad are the ones signing the contract, but grandma and grandpa may be the ones funding the deal, right? So how is this affecting these deals? Or how on board are the people that are not here? Like your support. You can ask it just outright. I know you guys are ready to sell your house. How on board is everybody else in your family, right? Or at your job or in your community? Like, you want to flesh out who are these people. Or you just say, hey, look, what does your family see as, what does your family have to say about this? What do your colleagues have to say about this? What do your friends have to say about this? Right? So those are questions that you can ask to flesh out if there's any other influencers in the background, right? So in essence, the larger concept that Chris is talking about here is that in any negotiation, you have to analyze the entire space of negotiation. So it's not just this one meeting. It's not just this one phone call. It's the entire space of the engagement and the interaction with the individual. It's more than just broken down in its compartments. It's an entire space. That's where Chris is getting to us. He calls these people behind the table, he calls them level 2 players, right? These are just parties that are not directly involved, but help implement the agreement, or they block them. And what will happen is that if they're in the background, they'll help implement what they like. That's what, if it's an agreement they like, they'll help implement it. They'll be your deal makers. But if they don't like it, they'll block it. So you want to know. You don't want no surprises. All right? So now Chris goes into spotting the liars. So how do you spot the liars? How do you deal with the jerks in a negotiation? Because they're going to be there, baby. Don't worry about it. It ain't about if they coming, about when they coming. Right? As a negotiator, you're going to run into guys who lie to your face and try to scare you into agreement. These aggressive jerks and serial fabricators, they come with the territory, and dealing with them is something you have to learn to do, right? Margaret, anybody ever lied to you in a negotiation? You found out they was lying to you? Or a client, a perceived client, or a customer lying? Yeah, they didn't lie to you. They fabricated, right? So we know it exists. But learning how to handle aggression and identify falsehood, that's just a part of the larger issue, which is learning how to spot and interpret the subtleties of communication. It all goes back to communication. So when we say, well, Mike, how do you identify a liar? Is by understanding the subtleties of negotiation. The subtleties of communication. Right? I'm pretty sure I got my Toastmasters president on with us, then I'm pretty sure in presentations and speeches, y'all talk about nonverbal and tonality when you're talking, right? Well, it's the same thing. That's communication. So communication is more than just the words that come out of people's mouths. It's much more than that, and we'll see that a little later. So there are instances where you can change a single word when you present options. An example that he gave was, instead of saying keep, you say not lose. So you use not lose instead of keep, and it can unconsciously influence the conscious choices of your counterpart, because nobody wants to lose anything. So it makes them feel like they're winning, even if it was something you weren't going to take away no way. But guess what? They don't lose it. So those are those nuances that you want to become skilled at. You see, so it's best not to go chin to chin with aggressiveness. Rather, you want to default to calibrated questions. How questions to avoid making bids or adjusting your negotiating position because they're coming at you so aggressively. So you don't want to succumb to the aggression. What you want to do is you want to flow with it. He calls it dodging and weaving. Right? It's kind of like that rope-a-dope that Ali pulled on George Foreman to tire him out. We're familiar with the rumble in the jungle. Let's go. Take it back to Africa. He dodged and weaved. Manila, yeah, the Thrill in Manila, baby. Let's go. So when you have an aggressive counterpart, or in any situation, they've got emotionally charged up and they're frustrated, they're angry, but they're just bringing a lot of negative energy into it, you don't counterbalance that. You get to head with that. What you do is you dive and weave. You do that by asking calibrated questions, right? To get them into an awareness of where they are and get them into an awareness of where you can identify what the problem is, y'all can get past it. All right? So from that, Chris goes into some different tools that we're going to go through right here. So the first tool that he talks about, and he says these are the kinds of tools that can help observant negotiators hit home runs. The first one was the 7-38-55% rule. And what the 7-38-55% rule is, it says that only 7% of a message is based on the words. So the words that are coming out of my mouth, only 7% of that is only 7% of that is communicating. It's just the part of the true communication. 38% comes from the tone of voice, right? So there's more weight in communication that comes from the tone of voice that the person uses than the actual words themselves. So 38% is tone of voice, and 55% comes from the body language and the face. That's why you want to do it in person, right? Text message, email, that's good, but you're missing 38 and 55. I mean, that's like over 93%. You're missing 93% of it when you just rely on text message and email. So at some point, you got to get on the phone. But even when you get on the phone, you're still missing 55% of it. You're still missing over almost half of it. So that's why face-to-face, belly-to-belly is what us old school salespeople use. You got to get belly-to-belly with them. You got to get butts and seats. Well, the reason it is because 55% of the communication and the message comes from their body language and their face. So you got to be there to see it. So how do you spot liars, falsehoods? Don't do it through listening to what they're saying. You do it through paying attention to tone. You do it through paying attention to body language and to their face, right? So there are most powerful tools that we can use. All right. So now he gives an example of kind of walking through the scenario, right? And he says, so you say, so we're agreed. They say, yes. I heard you say yes, but it seemed like there was a hesitation in your voice. Boom. He didn't use labeling on them. There was hesitation in your voice. I heard you say yes, but it was hesitation. Then they say, oh, it's nothing really. Then you say, no, this is important. Let's make sure we get this right. I appreciate it. That's what they say. It's the tone. Like, you got to listen to the tone. You got to see where they're going. That's a way to make sure the agreement gets implemented, right? Because, again, he said yes, but if you'd have never addressed it with hearing the tone and seeing that the implementation was at risk, deal might have been killed. Don't want to do that. All right, the next rule is the rule of three. The rule of three, in a nutshell, is getting people to agree 3 times. Right? So now, if you want to prevent yourself from sounding pushy and asking the same question 3 times, you're asking for agreement 3 times, right? Because it's difficult for somebody to lie to you 3 times. It's difficult for somebody to fabricate 3 times. So that's why the rule of 3 comes in, right? And he gives, again, he gives an example. He says, maybe when you ask for agreement, the first time they agree to something or give you a commitment, that's number 1. So when they say yes the first time, that's number 1. Then for number 2, you might later what they said, so they answered, that's right. So what I'm hearing is that you're going to do this, you're going to sign a paper, you're going to send it over to me. That's right. Boom. That's number 2. Number 3 could be a calibrate question, a how or what question about implementation that asks them to explain what would constitute success. Something like, what do we do if we get off track? Right? So we're signed up with, you know, you're going to find out what happens if it doesn't come to me? What happens if the contract doesn't come to me by tomorrow? What happens, right? Well, by them explaining what happens, you know, what happens if, you know, the signed listening agreement doesn't come by tomorrow or by next Wednesday? What happens? By them explaining could be their third way of saying yes. Okay? So the next rule that he talks about is Pinocchio effect. So we talk about these telltale signs. Remember Pinocchio? You could tell when Pinocchio was lying.
Oh,
Margaret, how can we tell?
Pinocchio.
No, Pinocchio. Pinocchio. How can we tell that Pinocchio was lying? That nose, right? That nose would come out, right? So you just had to watch the nose. And guess what? People offer obvious telltale signs when they're lying. It's not a growing nose, but it's close. Chris talks about Harvard business professor Deepak Malhotra. They wrote a book, they co-authored, and they said on average, liars use more words than truth tellers, and they use far more third-person pronouns. So Chris talks about listening for listen. If they get to talking a whole lot, they lying. A whole lot of words, they lying, right? Or you got to look at how they're utilizing their pronouns. Okay. Also, they say that they discovered that liars tend to speak in more complex sentences in an attempt to win over their suspicious counterparts, right? So that's why they use words. That's why they use more complex verbiage, is because they're suspicious that you think they lying. So they working too hard. They overwork to try to convince you. They work too hard. So that's where all of this comes from, right? They're trying to baffle you with bullshit. That's what Chris says. They're baffling you with bullshit. They call it the Pinocchio effect. All right. So another thing Chris encourages us to do is to pay attention to the usage of pronouns. One of the things that he says is that the more a person is in love with I, me, and my in a negotiation, the less important they are. I'm like, what, Chris? You true? So when you're dealing with somebody and they're as if they the ones that got to do it, or the buck stops with them, or it's all about what they say and the decisions that they make, they're lying. They're not important. There's somebody else behind them making the decision. You got to use calibrated questions to dig it out. Right? And then, but conversely, the harder it is to get a first-person pronoun out of a negotiator's mouth, the more important they are, right? And when I was reading this part, I was like, man, it's all right. Because when I don't want to be bothered with somebody coming in and I know I'm the one making a decision, best believe I'm acting like, man, you know, if it was me, it's them. They the ones got to make it. There's been plenty of times I done pushed it off on my partner when it's time for us to make a decision. I know he's telling the truth. So you got to pay attention to how they use pronouns. If they're doing the I, the me, the my dance, they're making it about them, they really ain't that important. But if they're trying to push it off on somebody else, they mama, they business partner, they banker, they CPA, it's you, buddy. So you got to bring them to a level of awareness so they can know that you know that they make the call. And they go ahead and pony that thing up. Another tool he talked about was the Chris discount. And the Chris discount is just using your name creates a dynamic of forced empathy. It makes the other side see you as a person. It's humanizing yourself. So one of the examples he hit them with is, you know, as slick negotiators, they like to use the other person's name, right? But again, Marketplace has become savvy to that, and now you sound like you're selling, always using somebody else's name. But when you use your name, like Mike, this is Mike. It's like, you know, that you have that relationship. One of the examples that he used was in humanizing himself. He was in a department store and he was trying to buy something, and he said, "Hey man, what's the Chris discount?" Right? Let me get the Chris discount. And that's how he was humanized, and he got a little shave off of, I believe he was applying for a credit card or something. But that's what he means by using his name to humanize himself in front of his counterpart. All right, so then he goes into how to get the counterpart bid against themselves, right? This is one of my favorite parts of the book. This is in chapter 8. And he talks about how to say no without shutting the counterpart out blunt and hurting and affecting their pride, right? He talks about, you know, hitting people with a soft no. Based on their research, they found out that you can usually express no 4 times before actually saying the word, right? And we talked about how powerful the word no was and what it does to people. So you want to use it the right way, but you also want to be able to say no without avoid using the actual 2 letters. So I'm gonna go through the scenario to give is the best way for me to present it, right? So he says, when somebody's you to do something and you don't want to do it, you don't want to say no, the first step in the no series is the how am I supposed to do this? So that's the first thing you have to do. By saying how am I supposed to do that, you now delivered it in a differential way so it becomes a request for help, right? You're saying no, but you're asking them to help you figure out the way, right? It invites the other side to participate in your dilemma and solve it with a better offer. Now, if that doesn't work, then the next part of the no series is some version of your offer is very generous. I'm sorry, that just doesn't work for me, right? It's an elegant second way to no, right? So it says your offer is very generous. I'm sorry, that just doesn't work for me. And then he goes into detail on calling the offer generous is, in essence, it is nurturing the counterpart, right? Calling them generous, live up to their word, and using the word I'm sorry softens the no. It builds empathy, right? So I'm sorry, that just doesn't work for me. Then the next one, so that's number 2. The next one is when they're still coming, you can use something like, I'm sorry, afraid I just can't do that. A little more direct, but you're still utilizing the I'm sorry, which is nurturing and building the empathy, but the can't do that does great double duty, right? Because now it expresses an inability to perform, and it can trigger the other side's empathy towards you. Now they feel sorry for you because you can't do it, right? It's not saying you don't want to do it. You can't. I'm sorry. I can't do that, right? So that's the third one, right? So then the fourth one is I'm sorry. Right? Again, we're still nurturing. We don't have to hit them with the pride-piercing word of no, but we put I'm sorry in front of it, and it softens the blow. So I'm sorry, no, is a slightly more successful version of the fourth no. It barely sounds negative at all because of the I'm sorry. And then if you got to get to the fifth one, if they still ain't got it by the end, then you just got to go in and say no. No is the last and most direct way. It should be delivered with a downward inflection, a tone of regard, not meant to be no. You don't want to say no. What you want to say is, right? Give them that look. No. Downward. No. Right? You're still maintaining their bound, right? You still want to control how they react, their feelings, their emotions. No. But keep in mind, you've already hit them in 4 other ways before you get there, right? So, Chris ends it like this. Part of closing a deal I mean, he ends this chapter like this. The art of closing a deal is staying focused to the very end. There are crucial points at the finale you must draw on your mental discipline. Don't think about what time the last flight leaves or what it would be like to get home early and play golf. Do not let your mind wander. Remain focused. So those are the last things that Chris gave us in this chapter. He talks about, because we've talked about a lot, right? We are now 8 chapters in on this book. He's given us a multitude of techniques. He's given us a multitude of strategies, the psychology, the empathy. He's given us a lot of information, right? But one of the key factors to all this is you got to stay focused to the end. And to the end is going from the initial engagement, maybe getting the first yes, all the way to implementation, to the point of how is this thing going to get played out to the end. Because remember, profits do not come without implementation. The yes means nothing without the how. So we're in business to make money, all right? So if that's the case, then everything that we do has to be driven by us leading to that end. Does that make sense? All right. So, Margaret, what up? What feedback you got for me about today?
Calibrated questions are key to getting the answers to the unanswered questions.
Absolutely. And what else is important about calibrated questions? Or what else did you glean from today's time today?
The way you ask them will help you find out more information. And face-to-face is key. I'm guessing video now that we have to do is helpful. So you can look at their eye, look at their nonverbal cues, so you can see them. So kind of know if they're lying or not.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you know, it's funny because some of my coaching students, they be like, man, can't we just do it over the phone? And I'm like, no, because I need to be able to see you. I need to see your nonverbals. I need to see your tone. I need to see all of that, because that's what helps through that process of self-discovery. Absolutely. All right. So, well, we're gonna talk. So, okay. So next week, next session, we're almost done, man. We only have 3 more sessions of this. 3 more, man. We're gonna be done with the book.
I'm a chapter behind in my personal reading.
You're a chapter behind, so you're on chapter 7.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good. Go ahead, binge read.
Yeah. I stay up pretty late reading and highlighting.
Yeah. No, good. Well, it's gonna come. Like, as you continue to study, read it over again. You know, one of the advices that I gave was, when you teach somebody else something, then it kind of solidifies it, right? So, Margaret, if this is something you really want to get, like for me, this is something that I really wanted to get. So if it's something that you really want to get, think way to where you could put your own series together and you could teach it, maybe on your social media or yeah, just like.
I wrote that down in my journal. See, I was cognizant. I wrote it down.
Absolutely.
Maybe a Facebook group or something.
Absolutely. And that's really going to implant it in you, and you become a rock star at this thing. All right? So good job. Stay committed. All right, so next week we are going to discuss how to get the price you want and the most effective way to bargain in a negotiation. So chapter 9, talking about bargaining, right? That back and forth, that, you know, 100,000, no, 90,000, no, 195,000, oh, 93,000, that back and forth, that good old bazaar bidding against each other. So we're going to talk about that, and really how to get to the price that you want. That's what we're gonna be doing next week. So without further ado, if we are done, like I always like to push it with reminding everybody the different opportunities that come with our Create Your New Life sessions. Again, Margaret talked about it earlier, able to get the 1 hour of CE credit. CE stands for continuing education. So that's one less thing you have to worry about as a realtor, getting your CE credit hours, because they are going to be required when it's time to renew. Anything that stood out to you, right? If you're with another brokerage firm and you are serious about things changing for you, you don't feel like you're in the right environment. You need to be in an empowering environment because you know the potential that you have on the inside of you. But for whatever reason, your current brokerage, your current broker, or the agents, you just don't have what you need to be able to pull it out of you. If that's where you are, I highly encourage you to schedule an online or in-person company introduction so I can show you the ways that we can pull that potential out of you and the ways to put you on track to realize these dreams and these goals that you've set forth for yourself in this business. It's no pressure. I'm not going to make you do nothing that you don't want to do, right? So all it's about is an educational session for us to expose you to the options, the better options that have set us apart from other brokerage firms out here. So you do that by going to that link and scheduling that session, that appointment. And if you're thinking about getting your license, you're enrolled in at least one class, we have an option for you as well. So if you want to go ahead and get yourself in a position where you can get exposed to the practical day of what realtors are going to do, and what you're going to be doing once you get licensed, you want to expose yourself to that, we have a program. Go ahead and set your online or company introduction, and we can talk to you about that program as well. So both of those can be done at that link. And then finally, follow us on our social media platforms. Go ahead, put your seatbelt on. If you go to Facebook right now, type in Brooks & Davis Real Estate Firm, go to our business page and like it, because in 45 minutes, we are going to be doing our discussion, and you need to be a part of it. We're going to be talking about virtual buyers. Well, again, we do that on the Facebook business page. And if you miss it, because you see this one later, you can always go back to our Facebook business page and see the lives, the full live, as well as our YouTube channel to see what we discussed for that week. So, again, multiple times a week, we're posting content on all of our social media platforms, and it's great content that you can use today, because we learn a lot in our travels and our studying. We learn. We're very intentional about growing, very intentional about it. So we have more than enough to share to the world, right? So we're like Bluebell ice cream, baby. We eat all we can, and we grow, we use, and we execute all that we can, and then we sell the rest. We get the rest out to people on social media. So that's how it works. All right, let's go this thing up. Let's go, let's go, let's go. No, we are done. We had a great session today in our Create Your New Life business meeting. We talked about spotting the liars and the jerks. We talked about how to guarantee that the thing gets implemented that you've been going back and forth on. We talked about always remaining positive, especially in these coronavirus climate. We went in depth about our one-on-one coaching and what makes us different, what makes ours different, peeling back those mental barriers, right? Getting in your head like Professor X and using that telepathic power to get that stuff out of your way. That's what's special about our coaching. And then we went through a brief recap of our Facebook Live. Take advantage of it, people. Go to Facebook Live, click on the notifications. I promise you, the strategies and the techniques that we're coming up with on a weekly basis, if you're a realtor, you want to buy a house, you want to sell a house, you can use this information to catapult you to the next level, right? Until then, I am your host, broker, CEO, Michael G. Davis. This is Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm, coaching you into the cosmos. It's time